Okay, hello, welcome to Mr. Quick's class. Today we're going to have 11th grade present their Cumulative Clauses Projects.
Hello today. My name is Rocco, my teammate Diana, and today we'll be discussing today we'll be presenting our project about equality in Animal Farm, which is the book that we have been assigned. And what's on our poster will include both independent and dependent clauses that we wrote about the Animal Farm. And we'll also be identifying the sentences together. So yeah, let's start. So first, in order for us to understand the independent and dependent clause, we must understand what does it mean. So the independent clause means independent clause has a subject and verb relationship and completes a thought. For example, here our example: the pigs declared that all animals are equal. The sentence that this part of our poster is independent, and the other clause is dependent. So we're gonna define that. A dependent clause does have a subject and verb relationship, but doesn't complete a full thought. Like for example here, since they thought of themselves highly. We don't know who they are, and yeah, what they did. So also we must understand what equality is. Equality is that all are equal and all have rights. So yeah. And now we are going to identify where the independent and dependent clauses are. And we have our own color code, if you guys can see. The red part is the independent clause, and the black part is the dependent clause. So it's going to be easier for us to identify where the independent and dependent clauses are. So let's read it together. The pigs declared that all animals are equal is independent. Although they stated that in their 7 commandments is dependent, they didn't follow their own rules is dependent. Since they thought of themselves highly, the one we have mentioned is dependent. Now that the pigs took the milk and animals and apples for their own benefit is dependent, and the animal never felt equal is independent because it can stand alone and it completes a full thought. And due to the pig's ironic actions that contrast with their principles is dependent. Now here is what we have spoken about, the dependent and independent clauses. Now here it's more this has the real definition of what it means. So I'll read it to you in case you can't see. A dependent clause is a group of organized words that contain a subject and a verb relationship, but cannot stand alone, stand by itself, and doesn't exist a complete thought. The independent, on the other hand, a group of organized words that contain a subject and a verb relationship. So those are the 2 definitions that we have got today and that we're speaking about. So this whole sentence structure is about the book we are assigned to read, which is Animal Farm. This basic Animal Farm basically talks about equality between the animals. That's why we have included, equality in our poster, and how all animals never felt equal. And yeah, we included how animals are not equal. So yeah, so thank you very much. This was the yellow group presenting our equality in Animal Farm. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, I'm recently representing human quality of the former accuse the animals because they think it is an equality with them and they cannot feel it even though they are an equality and they can feel everything. Even if they cannot feel everything, we should still respect everything on the planet. And except dependent and independent, dependent have verb and subject relationship but don't explain a complete thought. Like because they think they don't have an equality, this is an dependent. Okay, the form abuse an animal, this is an independent.
Next. Next.
Well, I will talk about animal farm. Ready? When all the animals and Mr. John's mother farm assembled in a In a barn to hear old Majid, a pig while he described a dream he had about a world where all the animals live free from the tyranny of their human masters, but the animals, inspired by old Majid philosophy, of animalism. When John forgot to feed the animals, the revolution occurs, and John and his men are chased off the farm. Well, we have here five dependent words and one independent word. It's when and where. An independent clause. Forget about it. Independent clause is a group of words with a subject and verb. It does not express a complete thought. So it is not a sentence and can stand alone. These clauses include adverb clauses, adjective clauses, and noun clauses. And the independent is a clause that can stand alone as a sentence. It's like all clauses, has a subject and verb when there are no dependent clauses. In the same sentence and independent clause, the independent clause is a simple sentence. That's it.
Next.
Hello, my name is Abdullahi and this is Mahmoud Sami, and today we're going to be talking, we're the Orange Group, and today we're going to be talking about Animal Farm and the cumulative clauses of the OBOK, which is Animal Farm. So, first of all, we're going to start talking about the dependent and independent clauses, which is the blue is independence and the gold is dependent clauses. So I'm going to read out the sentence. In Animal Farm, which is independent clause, which is owned by Mr. Jones, which is an independent clause. Pigs did not show the equality they preferred themselves. They preferred themselves better than everyone else. And then that was independent clause. And then because they were smarter than the rest and the other animals, so they were whenever Napoleon speaks to everyone, listens to him because they are afraid of him while he was using the dictatorship against animals. So basically, the whole story is talking about inequality, which is like when you're like completely unequal to other things. Like, okay, an independence clause is a clause which can speak for itself, like you could leave it in a sentence by itself and it makes sense. And a dependent clause is a clause that makes no sense by itself. And thank you.
All right, hi everyone, I'm Sandra of the Red Group, and today we're going to talk about the cumulative clause using animal farm. All right, so now let's start with a bit of basics. What is an accumulative clause? An accumulative clause is a clause that has a lot of dependent clauses and a lot of, and just probably like one or two independent clauses. Now, what is an independent and independent clause? An independent clause is a clause that can stand on its own and doesn't make a question and makes sense when you read it out loud. A dependent clause is the complete opposite. It makes absolutely no sense. It creates a question when you say it, and well, yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory actually. All right, so now let's take a look at our example in animal farm. All right, so although equality is an important factor in society, it wasn't implemented by Mr. Jones during his reign. So when the animals decided to rebel, they took the farm. In sum, equality was achieved in the farm. Now here we have 4 dependent clauses and 1 independent clause. Although equality is an important factor in society, is dependent because it starts with a subordinate conjunction, which is although, and you know that doesn't make sense on its own. Same thing goes for it wasn't implemented by Mr. Jones during his reign. Same thing goes for so when the animals decided to rebel and they took the farm. Equality was achieved in the farm makes sense on its own because it doesn't raise a question. Yeah, that's it. And another thing, I want to talk a bit about equality in animal farm. All right, so when they were under the reign of Mr. Jones, they felt oppressed, which is understandable because they worked too hard, they didn't get any food in return, and well, Mr. Jones just treated them, really horrible. So when they decided to rebel, and they actually took the farm, they thought that they achieved something and that they would finally have equality. But in reality, it was never there. They were delusional because Napoleon manipulated them into thinking that they had equality when, it was never there to begin with. Yeah, that's it. Another thing I might mention is Boxer. He was kind of like a machine, He worked too hard. He didn't know what he was working. Well, he did know what he was working for, but like I said, Napoleon manipulated him into thinking he was working for the better of the farm, when in reality he wasn't. And he kept on saying 2 things: "I will work harder," and "Napoleon is always right." Those were his 2 quotes that he repeated throughout the entire story. Well, he later adopted "Napoleon was right" a bit late in the book, but just the fact that he says it shows how manipulative and cunning Napoleon is. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Today our project is about the use of cumulative clauses to express the inequality in the animal farm. Okay, first of all, a clause is a group of organized words conflicting subject and a verb relationship. And here we said the cumulative clause. The cumulative clause is
independent clause followed by a series of dependent clauses. Okay, so let's start by saying the dependent clause. It's a group of organized words that contain subject and verb relationship, but it cannot be a complete thought and doesn't complete a doesn't express a complete sentence. The independent clause is a group of organized words that has also a subject and a verb relationship, but it explains a complete thought. Okay, so today our cumulative sentence is when Major spoke his speech. This is a dependent clause. In order to convey to the animals, this is also dependent because it starts with in order that all of them are equal, and he asked the animals. This is a dependent, and this is a dependent also. Whether the rats, rabbits, and the birds are comrades. This is independent. After he asked, dependent, some of them claimed that they agreed. This is independent, even though inside of them they didn't. This is a dependent. Okay, so the dependent clause is also known as the non-restrictive, and the independent is known as the restrictive. The dependent is contains the noun clause, the adverb clause, and the adjective clause. The noun clause starts with the words how, that, what, whatever, and when. Adverb clause when, where, why, and how. And the adjective clause starts with the words whose, whom, which. And here we have 5 dependent clauses and 3 independent. And also the dependent clause, the starting word, it should start with fanboys or coordinating conjunctions or marker words. Fanboys, they're known. Coordinating conjunctions are before, after, and because. And the marker words are whenever, which, and so on. And the dependent clause, it should be joined to another clause, which is the independent, to express a complete sentence. Okay, so here, and when Major spoke his speech, you can see that the sentence starts with when, which explains that it's a dependent clause. In order to convey to the animals, it's also dependent because it starts with in order. That, it's also that. All of them are equal. This is independent. And it's a adverb clause. And he asked the animals. This is dependent. Whether the rats, rabbits, and the birds are comrades. This is an independent. Okay, so overall we have, as I mentioned before, 5 dependent and 3 independent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us with 11th grade's Cumulative Clause Project. All right.